British Airways staff have told this programme that the company is being callous and brutal in its negotiations on their future jobs.
Let's get a bit more from Sean, who's been looking into it for us. So, Sean, there's been quite a lot talked about in relation to British Airways and their plans and the worries staff have. Tell us more.
We've had many staff get in touch with us who are upset and furious about how British Airways are going about that cost-cutting and treating them.
When this happened, it was devastating, like a bereavement, because it was the longest relationship in my life, apart from my parents. It's been ripped up and thrown away like we're worthless.
Fiona has worked as cabin crew for British Airways for more than 30 years. Just like over 20,000 of the airline staff, she's furloughed and off work with her pay covered by the government. She's also one of many who've got in touch with us on breakfast, incredibly worried for their jobs and livelihoods. We've changed her name and voice to protect her identity.
I can't even think about how this is going to affect my life. If they say, would you like to work on this contract? I have to have a conversation with my 16-year-old son, saying we'd be able to pay the mortgage and the utilities, and that's it.
To prepare for a very uncertain future, British Airways plans to make up to a third of its workforce redundant, and it's also proposing changes for the remaining staff. Now, workers claim they're being threatened with the sack and will only be rehired if they agree to less pay and worse conditions. Rachel, also not her real name, has been with the company for more than 3 decades.
I potentially could lose everything. I had a meltdown where I just sat and cried for most of the day. I get that there's a pandemic. I get that the whole airline industry is really suffering. I see this, though, as using the pandemic as a way of doing a restructuring that is absolutely brutal.
Only one union, one representing pilots, is even in negotiations with the airline. They say talks are hanging by a thread. One pilot who's just joined the business said he was told the contract he'd signed was null and void.
BA enticed me to leave my secure employment and then terminated my offer. BA should stop being so callously opportunistic and work more constructively. Me and my young family now rely on my wife's income together with savings.
British Airways says it's working now to try and protect as many jobs as possible for the future. Not much comfort, though, to staff members like Fiona, who told Breakfast the situation is leaving her in constant fear of what that future holds.
It's horrendous. I just don't know how it's even got this far. It's just so devastating. Everyone is mentally and emotionally all over the place.
Many more have been in touch with us as well, and it's notable that how long these people who are getting in touch have worked for British Airways. Lizzie, who's been there for 24 years in the cabin crew, says, I'm a mother of 3-year-old twins. It's been impossible for me to continue. It will be impossible for me to continue flying. Beth says she's been there 27 years. We're willing to negotiate. No other airline within this group is making these sort of changes. Now, we're expecting to hear from MPs in the coming days who've been looking into the transport sector, the airline industry in particular, about how that is handling the crisis. And also Unite, the union that represents so many workers, have raised this issue of cost-cutting at British Airways with the European Commission now, the competition watchdog there, because they're concerned that the owners of British Airways, which is IAG, they're looking to buy a Spanish airline right now called Air Europa, while at the same time looking to make cost cuts and lay off so many people here in the UK. So that's been raised with the competition watchdog. British Airways, Willie Walsh, who we heard from there, says that those two things are not linked. One purchase doesn't affect decisions made in the UK. So there's many things rumbling on here, but doesn't mean it's not an uncertain time for workers right now.